for your own marhumin and the marhumin of the rest of the community members and all Muslimin and Muslimat throughout the world. Please recite the Surah Al-Fatiha. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. سيما بقية الله في الأراضين وحجته على الخلق أجمعين. صلوا على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى يوم الدين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أما بعد، فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Dear brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last night we mentioned one of the attributes of the muttaqeen, and that is that Allah blesses them with a certain vision, a certain insight into His creation and the way that their lives will proceed if they have and if they endure in that taqwa. The more they try to cultivate that taqwa in their lives and in their hearts, then Allah increases them in that Quran. Allah says that we will give you the criteria for determining good and evil. And one of the ways that Allah does this is by increasing our sabr. Allah says, for those who have taqwa, a lot of times in the Quran, He says they also have to have sabr and patience. It is easy sometimes for us to think that this is the right thing to do and we should refrain from this thing that is haram, but actually going through with that is what taqwa requires. And sometimes prohibiting ourselves, refraining from those muharramat, those things that Allah has prohibited, it might be easy at first, but then you have to have patience. And so Allah, He commands us to have that patience. Throughout the Quran, He a lot of times will couple taqwa with sabr. In one ayah of the Quran, Allah says, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu, wattaqullah, la'allakum tuflahun. Allah says, O you who believe, have patience. O you Muslims, who are going to be facing some of the most difficult trials, have patience. And call each other, sabiru, call each other to patience. In other words, be together. Warabitu, and have close relations with each other so that you can lift your brother up in his time of need. You can help him through those difficult moments. Wattaqullah, la'allakum tuflahun. And then have taqwa. Have that piety, that vigilance, that devotion towards Allah. Know where your life is leading to. Sometimes, actually, when we look in the Quran, it might be good for us to read it in different ways. Take different approaches when you read the Quran. Try to see how Allah is speaking to us. Sometimes you get the impression when you read the Quran that Allah is writing for us a story, a very long, intricate story, and with every story, there's an author and then there are characters playing out the story. Sometimes we might take it from the perspective of the characters. Might see, for example, this one character, how is he speaking to this other character? What are his attributes? Is he someone who is, for example, is he the protagonist? Is he the antagonist? Does he have a lot of change in his characteristics? Is he growing in this story, or is he staying stagnant? And how does he relate to other people in the story, other characters in the story? But then sometimes you might actually read the story in terms of the relationship between those characters and the author. What is the author trying to tell us through the characters in the story? We as the readers, and then the author or the writer of that story. And a lot of times when you read the Quran, it is almost as though Allah is telling us the story of our lives. When Allah says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Those who are faced with some sort of trial in their lives, they say in the face of those trials that we are from God, and to God we return. Inna lillah, we are from Him and for Him, and to Him we are returning. In other words, Allah is the beginning of our path, He's the beginning of my life, and He is the end of my life. And it is almost as though Allah is pulling me along throughout my life. He shows me the way, tells me this is right. Stay away from this other thing. This is going to hurt you. This is going to bring you goodness. It's going to bring you blessings. I'm going to help you in this path. And just to get a better sense of this, we have verses in the Quran where Allah speaks to His prophets in this very beautiful way. In Surah Taha, ayat number around 36 until 39, Allah is speaking to Nabi Musa alayhi salam. These are right after the verses in Surah Taha where Allah reveals to Musa that first message and his mission as a prophet. So in the beginning of Surah Taha, towards the beginning, Allah says about the story of of Nabi Musa. Hal ataka hadith Musa. When we had him go from the deserts, the wilderness. And then it's almost as though Musa loses his way. Now imagine the story. Nabi Musa is leaving his safety, his safe haven, his refuge in Midian. And then he is moving towards that place that was full of danger for him in the land of Egypt. Going back to the place he had fled from, a place that was dangerous for him. But now, when he had left Egypt, he had left all alone. He was a young man, he was all alone, and so he could go wherever he wanted to, and he chooses that land. But now, on his way back, it's as though Nabi Musa is coming with his entire family. He has a wife, And it is almost as though the Quran tells us that he has a child as well. So a young child, a wife, a family, and it is, the Quran seems to tell us as well that the night has fallen and Musa is in this wilderness and he is walking towards his destination and he has lost his way. So imagine how terrifying that must be. And he didn't have cars and roads in the same way that we have today. You have all of these lampposts, right? But they didn't have the lampposts or the signs, 200 miles until Egypt, 100 miles, go this way, go that way. So it's very easy to lose your way. Many people die on those paths. And so Nabi Musa, the ayah says, he sees a fire out in the distance, a spark of light. And he says to his family, wait here. I will go to that fire and I will either take a piece of that fire, take a part of that fire, and bring it so that we can find our way, or at least I can find the way from that location, from the top of that hill. This moment of utter helplessness. Can you imagine what must be going through his heart? He is helpless, he is fearful, it's a wilderness, maybe there are animals that are going to come, predators, and it is maybe getting dark and it is getting cold, and his family does not have anything to help them in that situation. And so Nabi Musa goes towards the fire, goes atop of the hill, and then that moment, he sees the fire, and then Allah, in that moment of desperation, Allah speaks to him. And he says, Innani ana Allah, la ilaha illa ana. I am Allah. There is no Allah but me. Oh Musa, do not be afraid. Oh Musa, I am with you, as I have always been. And then it is in that moment, when he is going towards the land of Egypt, that Allah gives him his difficult mission. And Allah is basically trying to say, throughout these verses, it's very beautiful verses. Go and look at Surah Taha, those very first few verses of Surah Taha. Allah describes to us the way that he treats many of his creatures, those he loves dearly. He defies their expectations. He says, you think that this is your staff. Tell me, what is this thing that you're holding in your hand? Nabi Musa says, this is my staff. I guide my sheep, my herd, with this staff. I might give them their food, and so on and so forth. I lean on it. I do all of these different things. You might think that Nabi Musa, when he's going towards Fir'aun, the strongest man in the world of Nabi Musa, couldn't imagine someone who has a bigger army and more weapons. Allah does not give Nabi Musa a large army. He gives him this staff that he leans upon and that he guides his sheep and that he gives them their food. And then Allah also gives him his own hand. This is what the weapon of Nabi Musa was supposed to be, defying our expectations. Allah is saying that the things that you think are the most weak, through me are going to be the weapons that you are going to defy the strongest enemy that the world has ever seen, that you might ever think about. And then Allah gets to these verses, where Allah says, Nabi Musa, he asks Allah, he does dua to Allah, and he tells him, Oh Allah, Rabbi shrah li sadri, wa yassir li amri, wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Oh Allah, I am weak. My tongue cannot bear this mission. They're not going to accept what I say. So, oh Allah, open the knot in my tongue. Widen my chest. Give me the patience that is required of me. And allow me to speak in such a way that they will understand my speech and they will accept it. And oh Allah, make my brother Harun my aid and my wazir. Allah says, قَالَ قَدْ أُوتِيتُ سُؤْلَكَ يَا مُوسَى. O Musa, we will give you that which you ask. And O Musa, we will give you even more. Because remember, Allah is recounting for Musa what he had done for him up until this moment in his life. Again, the author is speaking to the character of the story. وَلَقَدْ مَنَنَّا عَلَيْكَ مَرَّةً أُخْرَى. O Musa, we had also done some things for you in the past. Don't forget that. We have always been there with you. إِذْ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ مَا يُوحَى. When we revealed to your mother what was revealed. And then Allah begins to recount for Musa that when you were in the most helpless of moments, not now when you can walk on your own, when you can speak on your own, when you can go through the desert and you can fix and mend your own life, you can decide for yourself. When you were a little infant boy and the people of Bani Israel, they were fearful for the lives of their infant boys. O Musa, we saved you in that moment, in the way that you might have least expected it. Because we told your mother to put this Musa, to put this young son of yours in a small basket and put him in the river. And let this river carry him wherever it might, because we are watching over him. And then we brought you to the door of your sworn enemy, Fir'aun. And you were raised in that house by Fir'aun and his wife themselves. And then we brought you back to your mother. Allah paints for us a picture of how He takes care of His servants, so long as they have taqwa and they have patience. And this is one of those blessings that Allah gives to the muttaqeen, so long as they have patience. He allows them to see things that other people could not see. This is also the same message that we get from the story of Aba Abdullah. Allah says in those ayats that I have been reciting throughout these nights, مَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. There is a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Where Rasulullah says, مَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا مِنْ شُبُهَاتِ الدُّنْيَا وَمِنْ غَمَرَاتِ الْمَوْتِ وَشَدَائِدِ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. I mentioned that this makhraj, this exit, this refuge that Allah gives to the muttaqeen, part of it we witness in this world. So Allah says, مَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. We will provide for him a way out. Rasulullah says, مِنْ شُبُهَاتِ الدُّنْيَا. Where other people are wavering in this world, the muttaqi, Allah provides him guidance and clarity in those moments when other people have doubt. وَمِنْ غَمَرَاتِ الْمَوْتِ. And in those pangs of death, that fright and that agony that death brings to all human beings, Allah provides for them a way out as well. And for all of the difficulties of the final day, وَشَدَائِدِ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. And when we look in the events of Karbala, the lead up, the journey to the day of Ashura, we see that Aba Abdullah, time and again, he is actually talking to people and he is inviting certain people and he is telling other people that you are free to go. So this is one of the beauties of the way that Aba Abdullah carries forward his mission. On his path to Karbala, he invites certain people and then he tells other people, you are free to go. Imam Hussein understood that this journey of his requires a certain caliber of person. A person who has that patience and has that relationship with Allah. He has that taqwa. And so it is said that when he leaves the city of Medina, he gathers his family and he goes towards Mecca. And then in the city of Mecca, he calls the Meccans, the Muslims who had gathered in Mecca for the Hajj, he calls them time and again towards this mission that he is embarking on. And then he leaves the city of Mecca, and it is said that Imam Hussein, he continues his journey, and whoever he meets on the way, meets Zuhair ibn Qaym. He meets Ubaydullah ibn al-Hur al-Ju'fi. He meets one person, he meets another person, and he's telling them that this is my mission. Join me if you want. Does not force an individual. He's trying to test them. Trying to see, are you prepared? Because this mission that I am going on, this is going to require from you the ultimate sacrifice. Don't think that you are going to be rewarded in this world. And some of them accept it and some of them reject him. But then within his own camp as well, there are certain people that throughout his journey leave the side of Abu Abdullah. Sometimes we've heard, and this is true for certain stages of the journey of Abu Abdullah. Sometimes when Imam Hussein tells his companions that this is not going to be what you might think, don't expect success or any sort of position in this world. This journey that I am upon might lead to your own death. At the final day, that final night, the companions of Abu Abdullah, they all agree. But on his way to that final moment, that final day, Imam Hussein, he hears about what happened with Muslim ibn Aqil. Here's what happened with his cousin. And Abu Abdullah, he turns around and he writes for his companions a message. He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma ba'd. فإنه قد أتانا خبر فظيع قتل مسلم بن عقيل وهان بن عروة. I have heard a very difficult and a very agonizing message, very agonizing report, that my cousin Muslim and his companion, my Shia Hani, and my messenger towards the city of Kufa, they have all been killed. وَقَدْ خَذَلَنَا شِيعَتُنَا فَمَنْ أَحَبَّ مِنْكُمْ الْإِنصِرَافَ فَلْيَنصَرِفْ غَيْرَ حَرَجٍ لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ ضِمَامٌ. Whoever amongst you, now that you know this story, now that you know what's going to happen, Muslim has been killed, Hani has been killed, and my messenger towards Kufa have been killed. They have all been killed. And all of my Shia, those people who claimed they were my followers, they have left my side in the city of Kufa. And so, basically, he leaves the rest of it unsaid. Whoever amongst you wants to leave my side, you are free to go. Don't think of yourself as having any allegiance towards me. And there's not going to be any blame if you take the hand of your family and you leave my side. It is said that there were people on the path of Imam Hussein towards Karbala. There were people amongst his companions, amongst those people who were coming along with Imam Hussein, that left his side. And then we see that 82, 83, around a little less than 100 people are left with Abu Abdullah until the night before the day of Ashura, the eve of Ashura comes. It is said that Imam Hussein gives this same message, that إِنَّكُمْ تُقْتَلُونَ غَدًا كُلُّكُمْ, that in the morrow you are all going to be killed. Not one of you is going to be spared. وَلَا يُفْلِتُ مِنْكُمْ رَجُلٌ. Not one of you is going to escape the impending death that is coming to all of us. And then they all respond. Alhamdulillahi alladhi sharafana bil qatli ma'ah. We thank Allah, we praise Allah for giving us the honor of being amongst those people who are going to be killed with you, O Abu Abdullah, O Al-Hussein. What I want to mention in this night, and much of the time has already been spent, what I want to mention though, in these next few nights, we've talked about what taqwa means. And last night we got a glimpse into what some of the effects of taqwa are. But I want to talk about more of these effects. What does a muttaqi, in other words, look like? We want to become amongst the muttaqin. What are those things that we have to find in ourselves and find in our souls, or try to at least cultivate them if we do not have them? One thing that we notice amongst the muttaqin, and this is something that we get from the ahadith and the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, that the muttaqin, there are two different dimensions to their soul. One is something that they have in their own private lives, and another is how they deal with other people. There is a beautiful khutbah of Amirul Mu'mineen in Nahjul Balagha, in which Amirul Mu'mineen describes to one of his companions, Hammam, person who was known for his taqwa, he describes for him the muttaqin. The Imam, Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he begins, he first begins by telling him that do all of the things that you already know. All of the wajibat, do them, all the muharramat, stay away from them. And then he begins to describe for him the sifat of the muttaqin. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, فَالْمُتَّقُونَ فِيهَا هُمْ أَهْلُ الْفَضَائِلِ مَنْطِقُهُمْ الصَّوَابِ وَمَلْبَسُهُمْ الْاقْتِصَادِ وَمَشْيُهُمْ التَّوَاضُعُ غضوا أبصارهم عما حرم الله عليهم ووقفوا أسماعهم على العلم النافع لهم. Imam Ali, he describes for us a person whose entire life, entire body, all of his existence is caught up in a single thing. Not just the tongue that he has, not just the eyes that he has, but even his clothes, even his eyes, even the way that he walks, even how he interacts with other people. Every single part of his life is filled up with this idea of taqwa. The pious in this world are people of virtue. They have all of the different virtues that you might think about. They are courageous in battle, and they are kind to their families. They are brave, and they go out and they work hard, but when it comes to their Lord, they are humble, and they are pious, and they are moderate, and they are modest. Their speech is rational. Their garments are simple, and their gait embodies humility. They lower their eyes, avoiding what Allah has forbidden them to see, and they dedicate their ears to hearing words of wisdom that bring them benefit. What I want to focus on though tonight is how Amirul Mu'mineen describes the two different parts of the life of a muttaqi. How he is at night, how he is during the day. How he is in private and how he is in public. Amirul Mu'mineen says, in the night, they stand in worship and recite sections of the Quran. They chant them in sweet melody, moving their own hearts to tears, and finding there the cure for their illness, or the cure for their illness. If they come across a verse that rouses their yearning, they consume it hungrily. In other words, at night, if you go and knock on their door, or if you peek into their homes, into the private of their homes, they are the most humble people in talking and speaking to Allah. That final night, before the day of Ashura, it is said that the companions of Abu Abdullah, they spent the entire night praising and worshipping and praying to Allah. Some of the enemy soldiers, they describe this scene, and they say that we heard the camp of Abu Abdullah as though it was buzzing like a beehive. Some were reading the Quran, some were standing up in ibadah and in salat, and others were speaking to Allah. And this is something that we all can take lesson in. What is my relationship in private with Allah? There is a beautiful hadith of our seventh Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, wherein the Imam says, if you want to know how to reach true taqwa, if you want to know how to work throughout your day so that you can reach your ultimate goal, he says, divide your day up into 4 parts. اجتهدوا في أن يكون زمانكم 4 ساعات. Divide your day up into 4 different parts. At least have 4 different segments in your day. ساعة لمناجاة الله. At least spend a part of your day whispering to Allah. Munajat is not just a normal dua that we do. It is a whisper. It's when a lover talks to his beloved. When a person who is in love wants to speak in intimacy with that person that they are in love with. That's what's called munajat. It's a whisper. Something that is the most intimate sort of sound that you can think of. وَسَاعَةٌ لِأَمْرِ or سَاعَةً لِأَمْرِ الْمَعَاشِ. And a part of your day, sa'a doesn't have to be an hour. It can just be any part of your day, for determining and rectifying your livelihood. Go out and work. Spend that time and be a hard-working individual that other people can look up to. Be successful in your material life and go out and work. وَسَاعَةً لِمُعَاشَرَةِ الْإِخْوَانِ. And spend a part of your day interacting with your brothers and sisters in Iman. وَالثِّقَاتِ. And those people that you trust. الَّذِينَ. Those people who are people that you can give and tell them the deepest secrets that you might have. يُعَرِّفُونَكُمْ عُيُوبَكُمْ وَيُخَلِّصُونَ لَكُمْ فِي الْبَاطِنِ. People that you can be sincere with. People that you can tell them your desires and your needs and your wants, and they're not going to sort of turn away from you. They're not going to belittle you. They're not going to disrespect you. وَسَاعَةً تَخْلُونَ فِيهَا لِلَذَّاتِكُمْ فِي غَيْرِ مُحَرَّمٍ وَبِهَذِهِ السَّاعَةِ تَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى 3 ساعات. And spend a part of your day in taking pleasure in the things that Allah has made halal for you. Sometimes, the Imam says, spend a portion of your day, and then we spend 8 hours taking pleasure in the things that Allah has made halal for us, and then we spend maybe a few seconds, I don't know how long it takes some of us to do salat, a few seconds maybe to do salat. It's not supposed to be so disproportionate. The Imam is saying, spend these different parts of your day, but have this as an apportioned time throughout your day. But this final portion, where you are taking pleasure in the halal that Allah has provided for you, whether it is spending time outdoors, or it is watching something that is halal, or it is playing a game that is halal, whatever it might be, reading a book, reading some poetry, whatever that might be, spend that time, and that time will give you that energy that you can spend for the rest of your day. So have a plan. That's a good thing. Have a plan for the entire day. But at least spend a part of your day whispering to your Lord. Speaking in intimacy with Allah. Doing prayer to Allah. In this khutbah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali actually tells us something even more beautiful. He says you have to have not just a single type of relationship with God. Have different relationships. For example, when I'm talking to my mother or my father, sometimes I'm talking to them as a friend. They tell me a joke, I tell them another joke in response. They give me something and I give them something in response. Sometimes I deal with them as a parent. They tell me something to go and do something and I obey them. Because after all, they are my parents and it is wajib upon me to obey their command. Sometimes they tell me as a guide. They have lived a longer life and they know and they have wisdom that Allah has given to them. And so I listen to them because the words that they tell me, the guidance that they give me may lead me to the right path. But it's not the same as being obedient to them as a parent. If my father tells me, go out and find a good job, he isn't telling me go and, for example, if he tells me, this is a good career, right? He's trying to guide me. When he says, for example, go into IT or go into finance, this is a good career for you. If I, for example, disobey him in that, he might be telling me as a guide. And maybe I will find another successful career that is going to lead me to the same end. It's going to give me prestige, it's going to give me the money that I need, and so on and so forth. There are different relationships that we have with people in our life. And this is one of the things that we understand through the du'as and the munajat that the Ahlul Bayt give us, those ways that we learn how to talk to Allah. That's an important point. On the one hand, we have a dua. Tonight is the night for dua kumail. Amir al-Mu'mineen, in that dua, he tells us, this is how you talk to Allah when you are saying a dua. Ilahi wa Rabbi, man li ghayruk. Oh my Lord, oh Allah. And it is said that Amir al-Mu'mineen took the hand of his companion Kumail, and he took him out into the wilderness where no one can hear them. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, Kumail, and Allah, they are talking to their Lord. Ilahi wa Rabbi, man li ghayruk, as'aluhu kashfa dhurri, wa nadara fi amri. Oh my Lord, who do I have other than you? وَقَدْ أَتَيْتُكَ يَا إِلَهِ بَعْدَ تَقْصِيرِي وَإِسْرَافِي عَلَى نَفْسِي مُعْتَذِرًا نَادِمًا. Oh my Lord, I have come to you. Now think about what relationship Amir al-Mu'mineen is describing in terms of the way that he is speaking to Allah. Oh my Lord, oh Allah, I have come to you after I have committed error, after I have been negligent, after I have been profligate, and I have wasted my life. Mu'tadiran nadima. Oh my Lord, I am mu'tadir. I am mistaken and I am asking for your forgiveness. I am giving pouring my heart out to you, O Allah, so that you can forgive me. Munkasiran, mustaqila, mustaghfiran muniban, muqirran, mud'inan, mu'tarifa. Until it gets to a point. Amir al-Mu'mineen is speaking as a person who is fallen short of his responsibility towards Allah. And then he switches tones. It says, فَهَبْنِي يَا إِلَهِي وَسَيِّدِي وَمَوْلَاي وَرَبِّي صَبَرْتُ عَلَى عَذَابِكِ فَكَيْفَ أَصْبِرُ عَلَى فِرَاقِكِ. He switches tones and he says, "Oh my Lord, even if you throw me into the hellfire, as a Lord has the right to do, but oh my Lord, oh Allah, oh my beloved, I can last and I can have patience in the face of your fire. But oh Allah, how can I be separate from you? The one being who was there with me throughout my entire life, who I gave my love for, I opened my heart to. وَهَبْنِي يَا إِلَهِي صَبَرْتُ عَلَى حَرِّ نَارٍ فَكَيْفَ أَصْبِرُ عَنِ النَّظَرِ إِلَى كَرَامَتِكَ. Oh my Lord, I can withstand and I can have patience in the face of your fire and your torment. But how can I have the patience when I know you are not looking towards me? When your karama and your honor and your nobility towards me is being cast away from me. And this is, I mentioned last night, that's some of the most beautiful aspects of Islamic civilization has been, and the things that we prize in Islamic civilization, has been this relationship with Allah. The things that have remained for us from our elders, from generations before us. The poet says, Ya ayni suhi abada, wa ya nafsi muti kamada, wa la tuhibbi ahada illa al-wahid as-samada. The poet says, O my eyes, cast down and pour forth forever. And O my soul, die an agonizing death. And do not love anyone except Al-Wahid Al-Samad. Do not have love, do not have any space in your heart for anyone except for Allah. This is how we speak to our beloved. And this should be the way that we live our lives. At night, the muttaqeen are people who speak to their Lord, and they bow down and they place their heads on the ground. That's khutbah of Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen says, if they come across a verse that rouses their yearning, they consume it hungrily, their hearts stretching out toward it in longing. They see its promised blessings before their eyes. But then, if they come across another verse that stokes their fear, they incline their hearts toward its warning. In other words, sometimes we might hear that religion is supposed to be a religion full of love. That's the only way that we can interact with Allah. But according to the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, yes, we have to have love towards our beloved. Allah is our true source of love and our true source of yearning. But then we also have to have fear. And we also have to have that obedience towards Allah. If He tells us to refrain from something, we must have fear about the punishment of Allah. But that fear should not envelop and take over our relationship with Allah. We also have to have hope. This is something that the mu'mineen and the muttaqeen have. When everyone else sees despair, the muttaqeen have hope. When everyone else thinks that the outcome is going to be bleak, the muttaqeen have hope. A mu'min is between khawf and raja, between fear of Allah's punishment and between hope of Allah's mercy. And so when Imam Hussein is walking outside of Mecca, or he is leaving the city of Medina, and people come and tell Imam Hussein, "Oh Hussein, the people of Kufa are going to abandon you." Imam Hussein, he sees hope. Because yes, he has hope, some glimmer of hope, that there are Shia in the city of Kufa and they're going to help him. But ultimately his hope is in Allah. That even if those people abandon him, Allah is going to protect him. And so on his way to the city of Karbala, to the land and the plains of Karbala, it is said that one of the poets, Al-Farazda, he crosses the path of Abu Abdullah. And Abu Abdullah asks him, you are coming from the city of Kufa. How do you gather and what is your conclusion from the people of that city? Farazda, this poet, very famous poet, he says, قُلُوبُهُمْ مَعَكْ وَالسُّيُوفُهُمْ عَلَيْكِ. Their hearts are with you. The normal people, the regular people, they want to help you, but their swords are going to be held up against you. Does Imam Hussein turn around? Does he despair? No, Imam Hussein has his hope. He yearns towards Allah. And this is one of those distinctions. Because he has that relationship of intimacy and obedience and fear and love with Allah. That is what carries him forward throughout his day. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll talk about how the muttaqeen deal with and interact with the rest of the world. One thing we have to keep in mind, that taqwa does not mean that you just express your love for Allah or your kindness and your compassion during the day, or you stand up in worship during the day. You are one way at night, you are one way during the day. You ask Allah and you talk to Allah at night, and during the day you fight. That is how a muttaqi is. Inshallah, tomorrow night we'll talk more about how the muttaqeen are with the rest of the world. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And this is one of the key characteristics that we see on the night of Ashura. The night before the day of Ashura comes, it is said, as I mentioned, that the camp of Abu Abdullah was buzzing like a beehive. And the people of that camp, the ashab of Abu Abdullah, they were spending the night in worship. And some of them were giving bashira and bashara to their fellow believers and to their fellow companions. They were smiling with each other, and they were telling each other about the glad tidings of their sacrifice on the following day. We can only imagine what that night would have been like. Maybe some of the mothers are saying their final farewells to their children. Maybe some of the wives and some of the husbands are giving their last words to each other. And the believers are speaking to their Lord. But there is one lady, Lady Zainab, who is preparing herself as well. And maybe Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, her brother, is preparing her throughout the night. Sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Rasulullah. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Fatimah al-Zahra. Ya Sadati wa ya Mawali. يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز معكم فوزا عظيما. It is said that at one moment during the night, Abu Abdullah, he recites these verses. He says, يا دهر أخت لك من خليل كم لك بالإشراق والأصيل من صاحب وطالب قتيل وإنما الأمر والدهر لا يقنع بالبليل. O days, O time, O destiny, how bad of a friend you are to your friend. How many days and nights have passed in my life? How bad you have been to your companion and to a person who is looking forward and is going to be killed. And destiny does not accept anyone in its place. Destiny does not accept anyone to be killed in the place of another human being. It is said that Abu Abdullah, in the night of Ashura, in that eve of the day, he recites these words, and the camp of Abu Abdullah hears this. It is said that Imam Zainul Abidin hears these words being recited, and the Imam understands what these words mean. And according to some of our maqatil, Imam Zainul Abidin says that I tried to withhold and stop myself from crying out loud, because I knew Abu Abdullah was talking about what was going to come on the next day. But I could try to stop myself. But Lady Zainab as well heard these words. And it is said that when Lady Zainab heard these words, she cried out to her brother, "O Hussein, when I hear these words being recited, O Hussein, I have nothing but to think that, O Hussein, you are preparing yourself for your final end." And it is said that Lady Zainab, she cried and she cried. And Abu Abdullah, he comes to his sister, Lady Zainab, and he says, "Oh Zainab, have patience. You have a long journey ahead of you. Oh Zainab, have patience in front of all of these children, because they're going to look up to you to have that patience." It is said that the night before Ashura, Lady Zainab as well was preparing her two sons, Awn and Muhammad. We can imagine maybe Zainab was giving her final farewell to Awn and Muhammad. She was preparing them. It is said that on the day of Ashura, Lady Zainab, she would comb their hair. She would dress them up herself. She would put on the armor of Awn and Muhammad on herself. She would bid farewell to her two young children. And it is said that Lady Zainab sent off her two children, Awn and Muhammad. She told them, "Go out and be brave for your mother in front of your uncle Hussein. Do not lose your courage. Do not lose your bravery in front of the enemy soldiers. Oh, Awn and Muhammad, make me proud." And it is said that Lady Zainab sends them off to ask permission from her brother Hussein. But Hussein does not give permission. He turns to Awn and Muhammad and he says, "Oh Awn, you are the only two children of Lady Zainab that are left. How could I let you go out? Maybe your father Abdullah ibn Ja'far would not be okay with this. Maybe he would not allow for this." And it is said that when they turned around to go back to their mother, Lady Zainab says, "Oh Abu Abdullah, will you not accept my sacrifice in your path? Abdullah himself gave me these two children so that they could go out and they could sacrifice themselves for you." Whenever a mother looks to her children, she sees her own future. She sees all of her hopes and her dreams in her two children. And all of the mothers, whenever they would send out their children, they might all be looking out through the tent to see what their children might be doing. And it is said that Lady Zainab, as a mother to all of the Banu Hashim, whenever the Banu Hashim would go out and they would fight, she would come out and she would see them fight. And she would cry when she would see them fall. And it is said that when Aliyun al-Akbar, he falls to the ground, it is Lady Zainab that runs towards the body of Aliyun al-Akbar, her nephew. And she cries and she pours out her heart. But it is said that Awn and Muhammad, after they fight a brave fight, after they fall to the ground, after their body is cut to pieces, it is said that He looked around and he did not see Lady Zainab anywhere to be found. It is said that Lady Zainab was in her tent and she was praying to Allah and she was thanking Allah. Oh Allah, accept our sacrifice. Oh Allah, thank me for allowing these two children of mine to be sacrificed in the path of your Imam, of your Wali. And it is said that Imam Hussein had to carry the bodies of Aoun and Muhammad back to the tent. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ.